Welcome to the show deemed by Nickelback as the greatest podcast by the EMS
John,
Wizard team.
John.
What?
You are nothing like Mark.
Well, correct.
Don't try to do an introduction
It's
because
time
it's
we
not
have
going
a
to work.
good-looking guy do this.
That
Coming up to
Mark
the
does
plate.
1,000% better than you do.
I,
Wait.
he's not
Nah.
with us.
Gentlemen, this is not the time to banter about the gentleman. Number one, we've got a brisket cooking. We don't have time for this.
We didn't get
And number
invited.
two, we've got somebody from the city of Albemarle as opposed to any other Albemarle things. And so let's cut straight to the meat and talk to our guest tonight. Not our normal guest of Walter Meads, but
Correct. The
our
resident guest. Mark and I are
yes.
resident guests. Don't forget.
I don't think Mark's a resident guest if he's not with us
He's not with us.
tonight.
Well, we're still resident guests.
He's
We just
not.
have to have time off too.
Well, Daddy Walter, I've got a brisket. Dale, welcome to the EMS. Welcome to the
You
EMS
better be
Wizard
lucky I didn't go beep,
podcast.
beep, 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 beep on you right then.
Dale, welcome to the EMS Wizard podcast. Thanks for taking time out of your life to spend it with the best friends. And so why don't you introduce yourself to our friends that are out there listening to this episode and tell us a little bit about what you're doing, where you are, and what's happening.
Currently I'm sitting on my couch, but glad to be here. I work for Stanley County Emergency Services, the prime best EMS agency in the region. At least I can say that, and keep it together and be proud of that. But the EMS chief, and I have worked for Stanley County Emergency Services since 2012.
2012, and you're the chief. That's pretty good. Just for geography purposes, Stanley County is located where exactly? What's your biggest city and what's your closest hospital?
So our biggest city is Albemarle. It's our county seat. We have a population of roughly 65,000 people here in Stanley County. We have a local hospital that we transport most of our routine patients to, and some they specialize in some other things, but more of our significant traumas, cardiacs, and things like that have to go out of county to other hospitals. They're usually within an hour transport distance for us.
And of those 65,000 people that live in that county, how many of them are Kelly Pickler?
Well, I mean, none of them, because she got popular and
Oh, she doesn't
all
live there.
about Stanley County. No.
Oh, well, that's what you get. You get popular, you get out. Therefore, you're not popular, so you're the chief of EMS there in Stanley County. Great job, Dale.
Just
Yeah,
as a quick note, the Avett brothers still live in Concord, where they're from. So I guess she forgot her
Yeah,
roots.
I mean, I sang karaoke with her one time, but it wasn't good. So there's that.
What?
Yeah. Well, okay. Walter, are you looking up what the Avett brothers are? I need somebody to do that.
No, but I should. Terry can tell us about it, I'm sure. Is this something with
It's
Nickelback?
my dead best friend's favorite musical act.
Yeah.
Why do you have to bring your
Yeah.
dead best friend up for?
I just wanted to make it weird.
Sounds solemn.
We don't talk about
It
dead
does.
enemies on this podcast, Walter. That's why. How rude of you.
Just dead best friends. Dale,
Did you just
so
tick a
many
little bit,
things.
Terry? It sounded like you ticked just for a second. Hey, do y'all have excellent stroke care in Stanley County? Because if so, I think
We actually do, and that's one of the things our local hospital specializes in. So we can run you right up the street here.
Terry, if you're ever in the market of moving from Grandy down to Albemarle, I believe maybe
I should.
TIA Terry might find a nice residence in Stanley County.
Correct.
TIA Terry, that kind of rhymes.
I like it. I was out with Adam doing some stuff the other day and had joked, "Oh, I feel like I'm having a stroke right now," right as the waitress was bringing us our drinks, and she was like, "Wait, what?" Dale, back to you. Let's not talk about John's favorite topic, which is me, but back to you, EMS chief. Y'all do some pretty interesting things out there in Stanley County, but we were talking about this. I just want to jump to this. because I've known you for a hot minute, known you for a couple of years, but I didn't know that you got promoted to chief before your 30th birthday. That's a pretty significant accomplishment. I mean, that gives you a different lens, perhaps, that you look through with some things. How's being a chief? Talk to us a little bit about that young chief life.
It it's allowing my hair to fall out a lot sooner than it probably would have. But it when I started, I was actually hired as a part-time EMT basic, with no desire to do EMS full time. And I worked a couple months part-time and got offered a full-time job, and they were like, if you'll go to paramedic school, we'll let you go full-time with us, and you can have a long and rewarding career. And I thought about it, and uh, took me a day or two. And then I went back and sat down in the office and said, you know what, this sounds like something I want to do for a career. And I actually told the director at the time that my goal was to be sitting in that seat one day, and I wouldn't let him down, and I would do the best I could. And he was actually the one that promoted me, because we're a multidisciplinary department with emergency management and the fire marshal's office. So I worked under three other EMS chiefs, but the same director up until his retirement 2 years ago as well. But he was the one that finally promoted me and said, "Well, you met your goal." So, but I did it a lot quicker than some.
And so what gave you that drive? You just said that you was part-time EMT with no desire to that. What sparked that? And the reason I ask you this is because we are challenged in today's EMS industry of, number one, even getting people interested to be in EMS. And the things that they're interested for, I'm not sure we even do as much anymore. And so maybe they come in a little blindly and then learn. But there's certainly not many that are hoping to go run an organization. What did it for you? What made you say, "Hey, I not only want to work here, but I want to be in that chief seat one day"?
Well, I mean, it was giving back to my community, because I was born and raised in Stanley County. And two, it was just a lot of I guess you could say work ethic that was kind of instilled in me by my dad, who was a pretty hard worker himself. Um, but I'm really a creature of habit, and this is something John wouldn't know much about, but I've only ever had two full-time jobs. So
No, John doesn't know about that.
so uh, like I said, I started, and I actually enjoyed it, because I was studying criminal justice when I actually started working here, for Stanley County, and I enjoyed it, got hooked, and the rest is history.
John, how many jobs have you had in 13 years? Speaking of which,
Which 13 years?
the last
13
13. Dale's
13
been Dale's
jobs.
been Dale's been the 13 years. How many places have you been in those 13 years?
How many jobs
13.
have you had in the last 13 months?
Correct. Okay, back to Dale.
Back to Dale.
My follow-up to Dale, since ridiculousness has been broke out roguely on the Nickelback's most important or most famous podcast and favorite top of their list, is so the driving force. I mean, you come in, you become a paramedic. Now, when I met you, you was a field training officer. So there's a little bit of that I know that makes something special out of somebody that wants to train other people. I know you're saying work ethic and stuff, and I know we're putting you on the spot because we don't prep you before these things and just talk to you. So I'm just putting you on the spot and say, what said, I want to run the thing, and take away that home crap. I'm trying to help. This ain't an interview. I'm not here to help people. I'm not here to be the hometown person. What made Dale want to be a chief from the seat that you was in? I mean, to go to and say, I want to do that.
Yeah, I guess it's something in me, the drive to always do something new, and keep pushing it as far as I can on myself. If I had it to do all over again, I may not have driven so hard,
Mm.
but because I missed out on a lot of things during that drive. But it's to the point now where I've kind of reached where my initial goal was, and then I had other goals throughout my career that I even wanted to go further. And but I think, you know, throughout my career, I was like, you know, eventually I want to be the director of the department over all three of the subgroups. And when our director retired, and you know, I interviewed for the job, didn't get it, but honestly, I think it was a blessing in disguise because I've learned in the last 2.5 years that EMS is kind of the thing I'm passionate about. I mean, EM's it's cool, but you know,
Is
emergency
it though?
management, there's
Is
Is
it?
it?
but that's what I was fixing to say. Emergency management's different, a different beast. They don't they don't all have the same sense of humor paramedics do, and I think I would get in trouble
It's
really
not a
quick
part of
with
the
that crowd.
plan. It's got to be a part
They
of the
don't
plan.
they don't have senses of humor, but you don't joke about disaster, Dale.
Unless you're a paramedic,
Correct.
Uh,
because you can't grow up and be a paramedic. You can't do both.
okay, so and Terry, I have some follow-ups if not Walter, but what did you do to prepare? I mean, if you come in so ambitiously to be like, I'm going to skip the steps and I'm going to drive forward, and you said I interviewed to go and be, you know, something bigger to end up where you're at. What did you do to prepare for that? What are some things that you did?
So, of course, education. I'm a big proponent of education, and so of course I went through a certificate paramedic program.
Mhm.
And when I went through it, it's a totally different dynamic now than it was then. But once I finished that, I did a lot of studying in specialty courses. I took just leadership classes that came along, any kind of specialty courses. I was pretty passionate about special operations, so got into a lot of that stuff as well. Um, and then, you know, when the opportunity came along for us to formally start a FTO program, I applied, and at that time you had to have a recommendation from a supervisor. So of course, unbeknownst to us, our supervisors actually gave their recommendations prior to the opportunity to apply for those positions came out, and I received the recommendation. I guess just because of my passion and my drive, and um, I slid in under the requirements because you had to have, I believe it was like a year or two of experience at the time, and I didn't quite have that yet, but they believed in me enough to give me a shot, and I was one of the original 6 FTOs for Stanley County Emergency Services. There's only 3 still left with us. Of course, none of them are in that role anymore. They've all advanced to other positions. And then, you know, during that time, I got to be an FTO for John. He's the only trainee that I've ever had that had to train me until lunchtime, and then after lunch, I attempted to train him, but sometimes he was resistant to that. But um,
So you and John were partners.
yes, we were for a brief period. I mean, he made it with us. What did you even make it 3 months with us, John?
Was it 3 months? Don't give me too much credit. See, here's the deal: it's back in those days. I
Here it
always
comes,
wanted
Terry. Here it comes.
I always
Uh,
wanted to work for College of the Albemarle. I always wanted that. It was a dream. I was born to do that.
what?
I grew up wanting to do that.
What?
When I seen the job open for Albemarle that you apply, that's what I thought I was getting. And then I come to find out later, that's on a whole ass other end of the state. So I had it all wrong. So I mean, that's what happened.
It's in the
You know,
western part of the state.
It is
believe
actually,
it or not, but believe it or not, you're not the first person that's happened to.
imagine not.
You would be shocked how many calls that I get for Albemarle area, Albemarle EMS.
Nice.
Even when I work for the county EMS system, they would call and say, "Is this Albemarle EMS?" No, it is not.
It could be. Even Stanley County isn't Albemarle EMS.
No, but that's what they would. But that's what they would call and say, "Is this Albemarle EMS?" So
So I'm gonna give 3 things that Stanley County pops up in my head about to talk about, and we can run with any of them. And I'm gonna let Terry pick the one that we go with first. The first
Okay.
thing is academy level classes, working with a
No.
community college to do that. No, I don't answer yet, Terry. You sit there and you have your stroke and be quiet.
Okay.
And then and then the second one is um the type of ambulances you have. It was my first you know, introduction to the ones that have the
Right.
generator running. We can talk about those.
It's called Fraser built. Please
Fraserville,
continue.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Fraserville, yeah, Fraser. I couldn't think of, thank you for that. My stroke kicked in.
yeah.
And then the third thing is y'all's community paramedic program that y'all have been instrumental. It's actually one of the bigger ones, better ones, well put together ones that Mike had a big hand in down there in doing. And so Terry, which one of those three things? All three of those things have piqued my interest. If you or Walter one have more interest to know.
I think we all know what I want to talk about. I'm a vehicle person. I mean, before we talk about vehicles, and we'll talk about it again, when I did some research on some community paramedicine stuff, Mike was one of the first people that I reached out to. Super helpful person, and to me, that continues to be speak because I'd only met him one or two times briefly, and his commitment to spreading knowledge and talking about what y'all are doing out there. But let's talk about those Fraser ambulances. And when John and I were in Texas couple months ago when we went to Texas and we were doing some things down in Texas, and then I swung by their factory but called you I guess the morning or maybe the night before going to the factory because I think your agency might be the original Fraser agency in the state of North Carolina, which is weird. AEV is built in our state, but y'all have Frasers. What talk to us a little bit about Frasers and what y'all are doing with them, why them, satisfaction, whatever it is that you want to say is just different.
Yeah, I can't testify under oath that we were the first one in North Carolina. I know we were probably one of the first, but we started in 2014 or 2016. I think it was 2014 with one Fraser ambulance. We had road rescues before. We had, I think, one McCoy Miller, but we tried Frasers, and we were pretty well satisfied with them. And then the year after that, our county commissioners and county manager gave us the opportunity to get an entire fleet in 1 year, which at the time looked extremely attractive to us. However, it bit us in the butt a couple of years later, because all of them wore out at once. And of course, the next go round, they were not interested in giving us a whole new fleet. So, but the initial purpose of going with Frasers was to the ease of remounts and the way they're built, and they're honestly simplistic, if you will, just the way they're wired, the look of them, but they're functional. You get a very sturdy product for a reasonable cost, and we're to the point now where we're really getting heavy into our remount program starting next budget year, and we're able to remount and turn it around a whole lot quicker, but the integrity of the box itself doesn't degrade over time. There's no it's an all metal construction type deal, and we had some growing pains with the generators, which is what Fraser's kind of famous for. The heat in our county and the humidity. We had problems with fuel pumps overheating. Of course, we got that remedied, but they've got a new system now, which is the MEP system, which is the under the hood generator, and we've switched to that, and that's even better than the Onan generators after we fix those few problems. But at the end of the day, I'm a very big customer service guy, which Fraser's always done solid by us. But and honestly, just what can you get? And right now, it's easy to get our hands on Fraser. We've tried another manufacturer since we started with Fraser, and it was a one-shot deal. We went right back to them. So,
and sometimes you gotta look at some other things, but having that standardization in your fleet is a pretty important thing. And one of the things, just for those that are watching or listening, that cool thing with the Fraser, where we're talking about that generator, Fraser does it. I say backwards, but I almost hate to admit they might be doing it right, and where you've got that generator putting out at your 120 volt, and so now all of your equipment that you're charging, instead of having to have a inverter or converter or shore power this or whatever, you've got that generator which is running, and that generator also powers your heating and air conditioning. And so all those issues that you might have in some other ways, you eliminate when you do that. And when I was down there and toured their factory, they had one of those CT ambulances that the city of Houston runs, and they were talking about that, and it was pretty cool seeing a CT machine in the back of an ambulance. Read about it, but actually seeing one was pretty bougie.
Right. And big selling point for Frasers. I've never heard a paramedic complain about being hot in the back of one of those in the middle of July. So that pays for itself right there. Cause I mean I'm a fat boy and I don't like being hot. So
Well, if you feel that you're a little overweight, you should watch last week's podcast where we talk about fitness. But at any rate, the
I like fitness.
as
Fitness burger in my mouth.
as July, I think, is one of those months that I actually work there at Stanley County, and I can attest to the whole generator thing is just amazing to me because, at that point in my career, I had already done several things, was fairly knowledgeable in trucks, so I thought, and I was really taken away by the whole idea that that generator did what it did, coming from an agency that I had been with that had constant problems with heating and cooling, just like anybody else, and attest to that it seems like it's modulated, like the things, like if you break something in there, you don't have to send the whole truck away. You just take that module out and replace that module. That sounds familiar to me. Is that right?
Yeah, and I know two things about electricity. You can't see it and it'll bite you. Um, and even I can figure some things out on a Fraser ambulance when I
Wait,
look at
you
the
can't
schematics.
you can't see the electricity between me and Walter?
That's chemistry, I would say.
Oh, okay. Well, I would call it electric, but sure.
Terry.
Checking the temperature on the brisket. It's almost done.
Great.
Oh,
Great. Cool. Where can one go find information? Can they call you and ask you about, can they come look at your trucks? Can they come see those that are out there seeking for those things? Are you the type of person that can take a moment to go out and show them your truck and let them look at it without them having to talk to somebody trying to sell them one?
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. So we'll put that in like the show notes or whatever, so you can get in contact with Mr. Dale about those type of trucks or whatnot.
We can even tell you what's easy to tear up and what's hard to tear up because if it can be torn up, Stanley County paramedics can do it. Been
Yeah,
there, done that, got that trophy.
there you go. Well,
So Dale, let me chase this rabbit for a second. And some people might be resistive to asking questions. And I've reached out to you a couple of times. You've reached out to me, and I've referred some other people. Why do you think that for you it's so easy to say, hey, come out and take a look at our truck. Hey, come out and take a look at our equipment, or come take a look at our equipment, where there's so many folks out there that tend to say, no, I'm not sharing that with you. I'm not sharing anything with you, SOGs or whatever.
Well, I mean, I would say three things. The first is I and most of the staff at Stanley County are very proud of what we have and what we do. So that's probably one of the things. But two, being able to lean on everybody across the state and your coworkers and counterparts elsewhere. There's a lot of times where I don't know the answers, but I can pick up the phone and find somebody that does, and that helps. But also, R&D and emergency services rip off and duplicate. So I'm a full believer in that too.
I like that.
consider that stolen as well, probably. I can do that.
Yeah, it will be.
All right. So we've talked a little bit. Walter is working a little bit on developing, I think, with his agencies up there, academy style, or at least an agency working together with the community college stuff. And Stanley's done that. So talk a little bit about that. And Walter, maybe you can feed off of some of that to see what you guys are doing different or the same. Because this is still fairly new, but you guys have already completed one, right?
Yeah, we did. They graduated the first week of December. We started with 7, but even before that, there was kind of some some growing pains with trying to figure out how we are going to make it work, what it was going to look like. And honestly, the first discussion was, we've got 7 people that we're fixing to put through an academy class 40 hours a week for the next 6 months. And myself and the supervisors had long discussions of, this is really going to suck operationally for 6 months because we're losing at least 2 people of each shift. Well, one shift only lost one, but 2 people off of each shift for 6 months, and that's a position that you can't backfill because it's a full-time FTE. So, the supervisors were gung ho. They're like, we need paramedics really bad. We can hire basics right now. Let's invest in our basics and grow them. And we were good with it. 2 months in, when it really hit the fan, they're like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. And I'm like, well, we're 2 months in. You still got 4 more to get through. So, but we were able to stumble across the apprenticeship NC program that was phenomenal for us. It helped pay the salaries for these students, but also helped us buy their uniforms, their books, any kind of materials they needed to get them through class. And they did well. We had one that figured out pretty quickly that was not suited for a fast-paced paramedic academy. And kudos to that student because they realized it very fast and took a step back before they committed a whole lot of time to it. They've since enrolled in a traditional program, but the other 6 stuck with it, graduated, and had first pass success on their state test. So 100% pass rate, 100% first pass rate.
Wow. That's
good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's something to be proud of. What do you think made that program so successful? I'm stealing Walter's questions. Sorry, Walter.
All right, carry on.
Honestly, the community college kind of let us have ownership of our program. We handpicked a group of instructors for it. Outside of that, I can't claim any credit for any of it. Nor can Mike Campbell outside of we got the ball rolling, selected the instructors, because I didn't even spend a day in the classroom until it came time for TSOPs.
There you go. That's why. You want to know why I was successful? Kept the chief out of the way.
Once they got
Is that
started.
That's why John was unsuccessful with Albemarle, was bad FTO.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't retain him, but then again, if you find an FTO that could keep John Wilson, they may need to they need to write a book.
Yeah, they haven't found one yet. They're still in search.
Kim Miller is my FTO, and she doesn't have time to write a book. She's too busy following NC State women's basketball all over the place. So she's been able to retain me the most. Any rate, I would say that the drive between, to me, it's the easiest answer. And it wasn't that long ago. I think we were talking on here, Walter, about the academy stuff on here and what's going on. And to me, it's the easiest answer. You got paid FTE inside the seat, so it helps community college. The thing that I'm hearing, if there's an asterisk out there, is 6 months too fast to push somebody through a medic class. Maybe we don't have the answers for that yet, but maybe that's worth some discussion here. I've always for a long time felt if there was anything that was a value inside of paramedic initial education, it was you can't teach it all too quick. You got to have that experience and that reflection period that goes with it. And what have you seen initially? I know it probably don't see that yet, exactly what that's going to look like, but that's one of the concerns I hear is it too fast?
So, I think it all depends on the student. We found that the generations, and I say younger generation, but even younger than my generation, they're used to that fast-paced learning environment. I mean, I struggle even helping a second grader do her homework now. So, but it all depends on the student. But one of our requirements is you have to be off of probation with us before we'll ever send you through that academy. So we've got a good 6 months with that employee before they can go to that academy. So we know a little bit, and it's an application process. So it's not just you can say, I want to go to the academy and you're guaranteed to go. So we evaluate their work ethic, their drive, their skill sets in the field, and do we think as EMS management between myself and our training division chief Mike Campbell, are they going to be a fit for this program? Now, we'll sponsor anybody through any traditional program they want to go through, but this is a time dedication, and you're a paid student for 6 months, and we expect you to bring out great things. But all six of these students, they were great employees before, they were great students, and they've surpassed our expectations once they finish paramedic school, and they're going to be to the level, not that we have to have them to that point, but at least three-quarters of them, if not 100% of them, will be crew chief ready in less than 6 months. Just they're that high speed.
And that could be the difference. You said some key words there that I don't know that everybody does. Maybe some take-home points for agents to be selective about who they do to do that. You sounds like you had a lot of say into the instructors as well. So it's good the community college allowed that flexibility, as I believe there's some push-pull that happens with that. Is community college has some standards they have to meet to ensure they're meeting the accreditation standards. But, at least from my viewpoint, the community college's position is to serve in that. And so they should certainly work as much as they can to allow, if it's as simple as the agency wants to have it at their place and have their guys and they're qualified and stuff, we got to let go of some of that control as a community college and say, that's cool because we're serving them. Now, control being the key, because, if they don't necessarily know what they're doing, or they're trying to do some things outside of kilter with what the COAMP says. I'm not saying that that does happen, but those are the type of things I think that the community college program would have to gain a little control in. But for those, in the most part, that are having skin in the game, they're not the ones doing that. They're the ones trying to get not just butts in the seat in the ambulance as a paramedic, but they're also trying to get quality people. And so they have nobody to blame but themselves. There's a little pressure on the agencies when they take that much control into doing those things. And I think that's why you see your Wake County and your Guilford County seek maybe accreditation on their own so that they maintain the full ramp of that. And I've seen success in Wake County being, with that school there, and then also having EMS. We're not in competition. We have two different things and we work well together. So I think there's answers there for that. You'd mentioned Mike Campbell.
So Dale, speak. Don't interrupt me.
Well, you was having your stroke. Take your aspirin, Ti. There you go.
No, you do your question, and then I'll save mine for.
Go to sleep. Go sleep, Grandpa. So, I was just saying, you mentioned Mike Campbell, and I do want to talk a little bit about Mike's community paramedic program, because that is one that we have talked to Mike about. We feel is one of the gaps that are inside of EMS officer stuff in general is managing those things. And you guys are just quiet down there. To be honest with you, you guys are quiet. Mike goes out and does some talks or whatever, but if you're not present for those talks, you don't go to those things, you don't know about Stanley County stuff, and y'all are doing some really good things. So I just want to give you the floor a little bit to talk about, about what your community paramedic program is about, what you do, and where you see it going in the future.
Well, first of all, I promise my overview of community paramedicine will be a lot shorter than Mike Campbell's would be because he's extremely passionate about it. But
yes,
it started actually from we got a Blue Cross Blue Shield grant to combat the opioid epidemic through community paramedicine, to where most of the other community paramedic programs at the time were just focused on high acuity hospital discharges and things like that. We got funding to start the program, and our goal was, hey, we get the program started. When the funding dries up, we can transition our staff right over to the hospital discharges. But we didn't expect it to be as successful as it was. And when I was promoted to training officer, I kind of inherited the program that had already started. And Mike was one of the community paramedics at the time that was there from day one. And I served on the advisory committee, but it was kind of a high level oversight thing. But once I was promoted to the training officer, it's kind of like I still say to this day, I paid the bills and set policy, and Mike ran the show. And it has worked. One when I was promoted, Mike actually promoted into my spot as the training officer, and so he oversees the community paramedic program now. And he's growing the staff that are underneath him to the level that he was, that I got lucky enough to have. But we still combat the opioid epidemic um, with Matt and Suboxone in the field. We've added a full-time 37 and a half hour employee that's a peer support specialist. She maintains all the certifications, things like that. She also kind of is high speed to the point where she's almost like an on-staff social worker too. So she doesn't just help with the opioid side of things, but she helps with those hospital discharges, those people that are non-compliant, with getting them in touch with the right resources. And our community paramedics work the same 24/72 schedule as our 911 crews. So they're available 24 hours a day, not just the 12-hour shifts. And then we still see two of our big hospitals. We see a lot of their discharges, but we've also partnered with one of our local palliative care agencies, and we're seeing a lot of their patients, which has been very rewarding for our community paramedics. But it's new to us, but it's another sustainability model for us for revenue for that CP division. And it goes back to that community partnership as well, because they have more patients than they have resources at this time. And we had some downtime and the opportunity to see more patients. So it's worked out for everybody.
Nice, Terry.
So Dale, speaking of working out, I don't, maybe it didn't work out for you, for John Wilson to be your best friend, but if you had a best friend list, where does John fall on your best friend list?
So, I it's like your kids. You can't love one more than the other, but I really knew the best friend question was going to come up during this
Dale,
podcast.
just don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it.
My wife prepared. I mean, I prepared a statement tonight to say that my wife is my best friend, and I couldn't do anything without her.
That actually is probably true. And I just want to go on record as saying this, is that when I'm in Wilmington and Asheville, your wife is my best friend too.
Don't let Keith hear that.
She usually brings me little rewards and little bottles. So she becomes my best friend too. She's good people.
She does.
Mm,
She is.
mm,
Well,
mm.
behind what it sounds like for me, and your wife's a blessing to you, blessing to your family, and sometimes what we say is, behind every successful man or behind every idiot is a brilliant woman who allows him to be amazing. So
And most of the time rolling her eyes.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah,
Maybe she won't listen to this podcast.
Yes, she will.
Hopefully not.
she's probably across the other side of the living room.
No, I didn't like flinch as I was reading, the statement that I prepared.
He didn't get anything thrown at him.
I am supposed to ask you, I understand that you have a latest invention potentially involving a stretcher.
I do. I do, and I'm fairly certain that she probably sent that over. I mean, I sent it to Terry because I was proud of it, knew I wouldn't get picked on. But
Yeah.
Uh,
John, you don't have Snapchat. How did you even?
I have Facebook Messenger, and like I said, there are times that she's my best friend.
she was laughing at my sketchy engineering skills of adding the propane tank. But yeah, I took an old manual stretcher that we were going to throw away and converted it to a tabletop, and now I have a portable griddle stand and plenty of space, and it's working out right now.
Chief makes too much money just to go to Lowe's and buy something, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I have two other part-time jobs.
It was surplus equipment, sir. Surplus equipment.
I mean, it was just going to go in the dumpster. One man's trash is another man's treasure.
And that begins the dumpster homes and the dumpster phone. What do you call dumpster phones, Terrence?
Dumpster phones, dumpster homes,
And dumpster.
Hey, you know,
dumpster and
you go
everything.
buy one of those somewhere else and it's several $100s. And you know, that takes food out of
Stretchers?
my children's mouth. No, no, no. The tables for like the griddles and stuff, man.
Oh,
Yeah. I didn't have anything invested in it. I had the wood at home already,
what?
and I kept something out of a landfill.
He was recycling.
That's right.
Well,
I'm thinking green for my environment.
here we go.
Not to,
Off the rails one more time.
Dale, thank you very much for taking time out of your life. Thank you to Mrs. Chandler for allowing you to spend some time with the best friends on this episode. And thank you to taking care of our Mother Earth and not just reusing, but recycling. And thank you to Keith for always being there for me.